As a social media video editor, it's pretty much part of my everyday that I'm on social media. And because of that, I'm constantly seeing things that I can compare myself to, like we all do. One of those things being the aesthetic office setup. Whether it's for a video editor or just for a normal person that works on their computer, I am constantly inundated with TikToks and Reels and photos about people's overly aesthetic desk setup. People literally order all these things all at once from Amazon or wherever. They all ship in together, they unbox everything together, everything sets up so clean and nice, and everything is perfectly perfect. Now, if you're anything like me, you are probably the target audience for this kind of content. As video editors, we sit at our desk all day. It's where we spend most of our time. We want it to look nice. However, does that mean dropping hundreds, thousands of dollars on our new desk setup just to make us feel better? And even if it's not for that aesthetic, do you actually need to spend so much money on your desk setup in order to start your career as a video editor? I'm making this video today partially from a request from a comment left recently, but also because I think it's really important to show you how a normal desk setup looks like. I've had my desk set up and my computer set up for a long time, and it served me very well, and we'll get into those details. But I want to show you exactly what I'm working with and what has gotten me through independent projects, passion projects, freelance work, full-time work, and now, of course, working as a full-time freelance video editor. My setup has not really changed. So what's my setup? What is this realistic, non-aesthetic look that I'm working with? Let's really get into the details. Let's go. Let's start with the most expensive thing. What computers am I working with? So my number one tried and true big boy right there, I've had for about 2 years now. It is the 2021 24-inch M1 iMac in green. My favorite color. I am working with a 16GB RAM and a 256GB SSD. It's a 24-inch display with 4.5K Retina display. It has all USB-C ports. 2 of them are Lightning and 2 of them are regular, and a 3.5mm headphone jack. This is not the most expensive iMac out there. I specifically actually bought this because when it first came out, and you can check out that video actually here of me reviewing the iMac when it first came out and my reaction to it, which was not actually that positive. It definitely had some kinks that had to work out, and it still kind of does that we've just worked out together, me and old iMac. But it's definitely not the most expensive option. At the time that I bought it, I believe it was around $2,500. I have to double check on that, which is of course a lot of money, but I severely needed an iMac. My laptop, which I will mention in a moment, was not doing the greatest in its old age, and I definitely needed something more powerful that could handle multiple things going on and bigger projects on Premiere Pro. This definitely was a huge purchase for me. I'm pretty sure I put it on a credit card like I do most of my big purchases. And of course, this was nice because it counted as a nice write-off for my taxes, but still, of course, very expensive. And if you do want to work as a full-time video editor and you have to work on your own computer, it's definitely going to be worth it for you to invest in an iMac when you get to the point where you really need it. Because again, this is very expensive. It's not a good idea to jump into any career where you have to invest a ton of money up front, because if it doesn't work out, then you're left hanging out to dry. So yes, I have just a standard issue iMac, but what about my mouse and keyboard? That'd be just about the same. Actually, this iMac came with a wireless keyboard and wireless mouse, which I was already used to working with in the past. So having just the standard issue wireless Magic Keyboard and wireless Magic Mouse worked fine for me, and it still does to this day. I've got no issues with it. I have considered investing in a more ergonomic mouse for my wrist, but I don't often have that many issues with it anymore. And if I do, then it's just a good sign for me to get off the computer and go for a walk. You'll see next to my iMac, there is a monitor right there. I bought that kind of on a whim. I had been needing one for a really long time, and I was browsing monitors for a while. They can get so insanely expensive. And in my line of work, I really didn't need one that was like super professional, because sometimes I just need an extra monitor just to throw my extra tabs, like other windows or a script onto that side of the screen. I still mainly do use the iMac for all of my editing. This monitor is just just a support for me. So I ended up investing in the Acer about 24-inch full HD 1920 1080p home office computer monitor. It is nothing fancy at all. In fact, when I first got it, I brought it here. It fit great on my desk. The frame size was like perfect because everything just fits on my little ledge there. But the color was off. It was kind of a strange thing for me to get used to. The buttons are kind of archaic. It was not the greatest fit, and I was going to return it, and I actually tried to order a different one to test that out, and it just like wasn't lining up for me. And I was like, you know what? Again, I don't need anything that fancy. This thing was like $100, works fine, fits on my desk, not an issue with anything. It works fine. Besides the fact that there's a weird color information on it. If you're not using it to edit and you're not using it to process color or anything to do with your videos, then it's fine. It's just an extra monitor. If you are new to this channel, I am Colleen, and in this channel, I teach you how to get a video editing job, and I teach you how to get paid doing what you love. For a lot of people, that is freelancing. So if you like freelancing and if you like video editing, I'd so appreciate it if you can hit the like button below, first of all, and also hit subscribe if you haven't already. So speaking of old and archaic, let's get into my laptop, which I do still use. I use it for when I just want to be not sitting at my desk, if I want to be working remote somewhere, like at a coffee shop or something, which I don't really do that much. But if I do decide to leave and I want to work off my laptop, I can still do it. It's just, again, it's old. It is a 2015 15-inch MacBook Pro, 2.5 gigahertz quad-core Intel Core i7, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and 256 gigabytes of flash storage. It's got two USB-A ports, which still work for my hard drives, so that's good. It's got two Thunderbolt 2 ports, which I've never known anything to plug into those ports, so I render them completely useless at this point. But it does have a headphone jack, an SD card port, and an HDMI port, so there are still some perks to it. Again, this laptop is old, but I'm not really one to just throw out tech if I can still use it. I have toyed with the idea of getting a new laptop sometime soon within the next year or so, because I do like the idea of editing outside of sitting at my desk, being able to go places. And it is getting to the point where it's really difficult for me to actually edit on that laptop. But there are other parts to my job besides just editing, because I have various clients and I do various types of things with them. And some things don't necessarily require Premiere to be open. So I do still find it valuable to use this laptop. And I don't want to get rid of it anytime soon, because I know that when I get rid of it, it's probably just going to go to the dumpster because she old.
It's been 84 years.
And I am still getting use out of her, just not quite as much as I could be. So she's on her way out, but not quite yet. I will also note that that laptop at the time was around $2,500 as well, which was a huge purchase for me, being now 8 years ago. And since I did buy my iMac in 2021, again, I am a little wary to spend another possibly $2,500 to $3,000 on a new laptop, because I am assuming it's going to be around that price if I want to get a good quality MacBook Pro. I have to assume it's going to be around that price. And so it's important to span that out. You know, we know as video editors that we are going to need a good computer to do some heavy lifting on the video editing, but you definitely want to be smart about your choices unless you're making bank, which, I mean, I'm living. Am I making bank? No. And so like most video editors, you kind of need to budget, you know, your big expenses. And that definitely is probably the biggest expense you're going to have. So that's my mindset of how I'm going about this. Is I know I'm going to need to buy a new laptop soon, but I just want to wait as long as possible because she's expensive. So we kind of got the big tech out of the way. Let's talk about the desk situation now. Let's start with the actual desk, because unfortunately I don't have a lot to say about it. It is a beautiful desk, but I do not know the brand or how it even came to be mine. I know that it was a gift from my mom, but I don't see the information on Amazon. I think that's where I found it. I don't think I would have found it on Wayfair or anything. So definitely check out Amazon. They have a ton of desk options if you are looking for one, but this particular one I cannot find. It is kind of an obscure kind of desk, and I love this desk. It has everything I could possibly need. It's got an upper layer for my monitors, which I always need, and it's got a lower level for my keyboard. So it kind of makes my whole situation very comfortable for me. You see, it's kind of got this like fake wood finish, and it does have glass on the top layer here, which in theory is nice. It looks nice, but it also gathers fingerprints and dust very easily. So cleaning it is annoying. Another thing I unfortunately don't have information about because it was also a gift is my desk chair. My chair is wonderful. It's just a classic ergonomic chair from Amazon. I'm sure in this day and age, similar or better chairs can be found for potentially even cheaper. I got both of these things around 2018-ish, something around there. And they have both served me very well for all these years. I don't really intend on getting rid of either one of them anytime soon because again, they're just high quality things that are performing very nicely for me. Why get rid of them? Why change things? My standing desk is a new addition to my desk situation here. I have been lingering on whether to get one or not for the longest time. Obviously, it is a really good decision because there definitely are times whenever I am stuck sitting in a chair editing and I can just feel it in my legs. They are just getting so crampy just sitting here for way too long. And I have a hard time sitting in general for too long, which definitely is a good thing. However, if I have a job to do, it makes video editing and sitting really hard to do. So this has been really helpful. I don't use it as much as I probably should, but it is helpful to have as a way to be able to work while standing. And I definitely have noticed that it has helped me in that way. Now, is this the best standing desk that you can get? Absolutely not. I definitely bought this one kind of on a whim. I wanted one that was not super expensive, but that was going to be able to hold a monitor if I needed to put one on there, or my laptop or something, even though I really don't. Usually it's just my keyboard and my mouse and maybe a cup of coffee I'll put on there, which is not the best idea. But that's really all I ever really needed for, but I did want to get one that was a little bit more sturdy rather than some of the more flimsy ones you may find on Amazon. So this one works for me. It is incredibly clunky. Opening it and particularly closing it is super clunky, especially because I've got glass right there on the bottom. And so I've got this metal piece that is the frame of the standing desk. And when I close it, it kind of like chomps down on the glass, and it's not the most reassuring situation, but I do trust that my desk can handle it, and it doesn't seem to be too harsh on it, so I think it's okay, but it is a little bit clunky, so I'm sure that there are better options. I would absolutely love to be able to get a full-on standing desk or an uplift desk, but they are definitely expensive, and even if I were to opt for a cheaper one, it just, I have a hard time letting go of this baby, and the fact that it's just so much desk, and I would be just getting rid of this perfectly good desk. It's kind of a hard thing for me to do, to just get rid of this desk that's probably going to end up in the trash, and that just seems really wasteful to me. So I'm trying to just stick it out as long as possible with the desk that I have, and the standing desk is a great solution to that. The only other kind of thing that I will add in this category is my Harry Potter mouse pad, which I love. It was gifted to me by a friend, and it actually is a great buy because it definitely keeps everything a little bit more contained on this slick wood-like kind of surface down here in my rollout keyboard area. Plus, if you don't know, I am a big Harry Potter fan, and this just fits very nicely in the aesthetic. It's like not too flashy, but it just fits very nicely, and it's perfect. I don't know if this counts as quite as my desk setup, but I do want to touch on hard drives momentarily because they are an integral part of any video editor, is having some good solid hard drives. And so I am not the hard drive expert. I'm sure that there are some much better videos that you can watch here on YouTube about hard drives and hard drive recommendations. I can only offer what have been working for me, and I have been working with these hard drives for many years. Some of them have lasted through a long time. And so I've come to trust certain brands over other ones. So the three biggest brands that I trust as hard drives are SanDisk, Seagate, and G-Tech. Now, a note with SanDisk, I do have a SanDisk SSD, but it's not this one, it's this one. And it's very important that I make that difference because this hard drive is a piece of shit, and I had it for a huge project and it failed on me. So I do not recommend this drive. However, I have had this drive for a different feature film, and then I kept it after that film and have just been using it ever since. This drive has never failed me. It is incredibly reliable. And so I would recommend this hard drive, definitely not this one. And in general, it's really hard to rely on any hard drive. You just never know. And so I know that I should have more backups than I do, probably because most of my stuff is also online. So I kind of count like online and Google Drive and Dropbox and things as backups, but definitely have some kind of backup for your projects because you just never know when and if a drive is going to fail on you. The other two brands, Seagate and G-Tech, I personally have never had any issues with those drives. However, I have heard from other people that they don't trust them. So again, do your own research, watch more videos about hard drives, and just whatever decision you decide to make, have a backup potentially in a different brand, ordered from a different company. Just have a very different, separate backup so that you have at least 2 ways, if not 3, to back up your footage and your project if a situation were to go sour. There's not much else to note because my desk setup is just really so simple. I do have one additional piece of tech that I do use every single day, and that is the Anker USB-C hub. It is an adapter for all of my USB-A hard drives so that I can use them in my USB-C only iMac. I think it works really great. I haven't had many issues with things disconnecting, and when drives do disconnect, I think it is the issue with the drive and not the Anker device, particularly because it's usually the same drives every time that have the issue versus there are some drives that never disconnect. So if you are looking for an adapter really of any kind, Anker is not a bad brand to look into. And honestly, this is it. This is really all I need for my desk setup. Having a good, reliable computer, maybe an additional computer, a mouse, a keyboard, a hard drive, and some software, which we're not going to touch on today because that's a whole nother conversation. You don't need to have a super aesthetic, expensive desk setup. People literally edit every day just on their laptop in their bedroom. Oh, speaking of, I should note that I am in my bedroom right now. I do not have my own office. Would I love to have my own office so I can decorate it and put lights and make it super aesthetic? Yes. But again, is that really that realistic for most of us that we can just have an office to do all of our video editing? No, not for a long time. And it's also important not to jump into that lifestyle and spend all this money on a bigger apartment or a house just so you can have these things when it may not even be necessary that you have them. It's not worth going house poor or just generally poor over having this nice setup when, especially if you cannot afford it with the jobs that you are currently getting as a video editor or a freelancer in general. Again, if you're anything like me, the aesthetic temptations can be very tempting to purchase them, to make your setup more aesthetic. And again, we are sitting at this desk for a long time during the day, so we want it to look cute. But for me, putting some cheap lights that I found at Target, putting a plant, putting pictures are things that don't cost that much money, but that add a lot of value for me and that make it bearable to sit at my desk every day. It doesn't need to be too fancy. It just needs to be functional and it needs to make you money, essentially. That is why we're here, right? To make money from our home. If you like this video, I'd so appreciate it if you could hit the like button below and subscribe if you haven't already for more video editing and freelance content. Thank you to my team. Again, I am Colleen and I will catch you guys in the next video. Have the best one.